We're working with Castor, doing some more desensitizing with some objects and things. Right now, he has like a little beach ball and he's nuzzing it in the corner. So he's not super afraid, but I want to check all my boxes, make sure he's good with all the things. So he seems pretty cool with that. He already wants to push it around. He likes to stick things in his mouth. But just be careful. Like, if your horse is afraid, stay away from, like, don't get between the horse and the ball or the horse and away from the ball. I like to be where I'm at now, where I'm on the other side, so that you're not gonna be in the way if he decides to leave town. So make sure you're in a safe spot. But he just was kind of nosing it, and I just clicked and gave him a treat there on the ground. And I just threw like a piece of hay cube. But I like that he's interested in it and he's kind of pushing around. I don't necessarily need him to push it around, but I like that he's interested and he's showing curiosity, and I want to reward some of that. And you want to make sure that you push it away from the horse. You don't want to push it at your horse, definitely not in the beginning, because that could scare them. It's now chasing them. It builds their confidence if they are chasing it. So I'm just having him move away so I can kick it away from him and show him his treat there. But I just want it to be nice and rewarding. I just wanted to see kind of where he was at with that, because Atlas was a lot more afraid of that. You'll see that later, but it's just an interesting thing to see and kind of get a feel for him and what he's going to be weary of, like, in the future. So we're working on that backup too, just kind of not necessarily formally like, okay, let's do this many steps and this many steps, but just kind of as we go. So I also have a lariat. We're gonna work with that a little bit just because it's kind of a weird rope. Like, it doesn't look like a lunge line or a lead rope or something like that. It's a little bit scarier. It makes different movements. It sounds different. So get him used to that. I just want him to kind of look at it a little bit, and then I will click and reward him, and then I'll just offer it to him. He doesn't have to touch it. I just want him to kind of look in its direction, but he goes ahead and touches it. That's totally fine. I'm cool with that. So I just want him to kind of be exposed to some different things and just kind of see how he feels about them. So I brought out some different objects that he's not normally used to seeing, and then just kind of did that in the round pen. So we're in a safe location if he did get scared. But if he was really afraid of something and I'm starting to bring it in the pen and he's showing me, like, with his ears are pricked forward and his neck is high and his eyes are tense and he's maybe snorting or something, I'm not gonna just continue to bring it in. I'm gonna let him see it, reward him for looking at it and maybe getting a little bit closer, and just go really slow with it because I'm not in a hurry. So I'm just going to touch him on the neck with it. He's showing me all the green lights. He's cool with it. He doesn't look tense whatsoever. He wants to touch it on his own. So I just let it kind of touch his neck. So again, I'm just going to repeat on the other side. I don't want to just go to the other side and start touching him. So I want to make sure he's totally okay with the rope on the other side of his body. So I just bring it up and he wants to touch it. That's great. I'll give him a treat. So I'm just going to build it back up just like I did on the right side, on the left side. Doesn't matter which side you start on, but just make sure you start from the beginning on each side, just so they're okay with it. And you don't have to start every time your horse interacts with the rope. You kind of have to read the horse. Do they look relaxed? Do they look worried? How was he with that object before? And kind of take all of that into account before you just decide to, like, throw the rope on. If your horse is broke and you've had him for 10 years and he's cool with that, yeah, but it just kind of depends on the context. So he's a little interested in the rope now, but he's letting me touch him. He's okay with that. And really, I don't really need to touch him all over with the rope or toss it around or anything. I just kind of wanted to see what his reactions were to new things. So getting a feel for them, because I hadn't worked with him ton during this winter. It was like a couple videos in each month of winter, so he hasn't done a ton, but he's been progressing really, really well. So that is nice. So we're pretty much done with that. We didn't need to do too much with that. Just something new for him to see. And then I brought a couple of pads. I wanted to start with the half pad because it was small, because it's a half, I guess. I didn't want it to be this giant scary pad. I wanted it to be something smaller and he can just kind of see it and get used to it, and then I'll bring out the bigger one. And this is kind of specifically just for the Mustangs. I don't usually do this with domestic horses unless they're really fearful. But for the Mustangs, everything is new. I want to break it down as small pieces as I can, and the half pad just kind of worked for that. He's looking at something. I'm not sure. I think I ran out of food there, or my husband came by or something. But We're just starting where I left off, and I want him to follow it. So walking away from him, not just shoving it in his face, just kind of putting it near him. If he wants to look at it, I'll click and feed. If he wants to touch it, I'll do the same thing. So just kind of seeing what he thinks about it. And he's not super interested. He's not afraid or anything either, though. I don't want him to get super close and kind of think, oh, well, I should lead and be here. And then he sees the pad and gets scared and does something. So kind of make sure that they're in a safe location. They have enough distance between you so they're not going to just, you know, not be thinking that you have something and then get too close and then they have the pad and scares them and they jump or run over you or something. So I'm just gonna put that up on the fence. I want him to see it in different locations. So I'm gonna have them up on the fence a lot. They are scarier because they're up high, they're above their vision line. That's where the predators are. And I'm just gonna use my target to kind of direct him where I would like, because I'd like him to target it. He's showing me all the signs that he's okay for that step. If your horse is not, that's okay. Let him see it from there. You might have to start at the back end of that round pen if it's up on the fence and he's afraid of it and just kind of get a little bit closer each time. But Castor was totally fine with it. So now I'm going to whip out my actual sized pad and kind of see what he thinks about that. This one's black, so maybe a scarier looking, depending on your horse. And it's bigger, so it just kind of depends what your horse thinks about things. But he doesn't seem to care at all. So if your horse isn't quite as brave, as confident as Castor is, I definitely wouldn't suggest just putting it on the top rail right away. But he was really cool. He had already was like looking at it while I was getting it. So he was okay with that. And he had already seen the other pad, so he seemed like he was going to be fine. So it just kind of takes some experience in knowing your horse to kind of see, okay, should I move on? Should I not? Because we don't want to go backwards. I don't want to scare him. So I want to make sure everything is good. But he's just touching the pad and I'm giving him treats on the ground. So he's being really good and learning about new objects.